Birds, bats, bees, butterflies. All of these are responsible for bringing us 1 out of every 3 bites of food in the world. Did you realize that? Without these pollinators, we would have hardly any available nutritious food. We need these pollinators to pollinate, to distribute grains of pollen from male plants into female plants so that fruiting occurs. Let's celebrate National Pollinator Week. It's June 22nd to the 28th, and it's about all things pollinators and what you can do to attract pollinators to your garden. Are you a new gardener? Do you want to make a bee, butterfly habitat? Then come along with me and let me show you what I've done. So in my garden, I strive for a succession of plants, and this doesn't happen overnight. It's taken me 16 years to achieve something in bloom every month of the year. So it usually starts out in January with daffodils and narcissus. After that, tulips come, and the bees and the butterflies love them. After that, the salvias start popping up. We've got various plants like heucheras. My apple tree is in blossom, and the pollinators, bees, love that. It depends on every flower on my apple tree getting pollinated, and that ensures a good apple. So if it's raining or if it's super cold, and the bees and the butterflies and even the wasps, if they don't pollinate those apple blossoms, then I don't get apples. After the apples are done, then the hydrangeas start popping up. After the hydrangeas, I've got various herbs. I let my broccoli and my Brussels sprouts and my cabbages start going to flower, and that brings in a ton of different pollinators. After those are done, more salvias are in bloom, and I've got tomato plants going at that point. So we've got tomato blossoms, then the squash blossoms and the cucumber blossoms start appearing. So all summer, all year long rather, something is in bloom. I suggest going to nurseries like once a month and finding something native that's in bloom at that time and bringing that into your garden. Strive for perennials, heirloom, if you can do it, plants. And as a gardener, you realize that things are not in bloom the whole season. Everything has its own cycle, its own time to shine, and when it's done, something else needs to rise up in its place. If you're a pollinator garden yourself, you might want to take up this torch for Pollinator Week and do another video, as well as me doing a video. I'm not going to call this a collaboration, but I am hoping that a couple other channels will piggyback off mine, and that would be Dee from Naturally NC, Simply Jan Homestead, Chrissy from Along the River Homestead, and Shelly from TNS Dogs and Dragonflies. And there's 2 more channels that are going to join me as well. That's Jacob's Triangle Homestead and Michigan Garden Gal. I don't know if you guys can see all the bee activity on this oregano that's in full bloom, but they sure love it. You need to get the word out, especially to all the new gardeners out in the world because of the coronavirus. Tons of new gardeners out there, and we have to impart that knowledge that it's not just about buying whatever plants that are pretty. It's about buying plants that support our pollinators so that our fruiting happens and we have food to eat. Another great thing to do in supporting your pollinators is to support local beekeepers. Always try and find local These people are a wealth of knowledge about what attracts their bees. Without the actions of pollinators in our gardens, our food system would collapse. So pollinators are essential to our daily life. Imagine a cup of coffee, a plate of fruit, a plate of food. You just heard a fish jump in my pond and the dog's going after it. So without pollinators, we wouldn't have that cup of coffee or that plate of fruit or that nutritious, healthy green food that so nourishes our body. This is bee balm. It is a pollinator magnet. It's incredible to see the bumblebees, the bees, the wasps, the flies, all the pollinators that flock to this plant. There's so many different salvias that come into bloom at various times during the year. There's early blooming salvias, late blooming, and the bees and the pollinators love them. This is a black and blue salvia. Isn't it pretty? But see these little ants? These are great pollinators. They will distribute the pollen from that stamen and eventually, if they find a female flower, to that one. And that will be the result. I depend on pollinators in my garden so much because without them, I would not get an apple harvest each year. See the dragonfly? I love to see the dragonflies and the butterflies, and it's just a welcoming sight when I see these and I know that I have a healthy ecological garden. The Vitex is an incredible pollinator in North Texas as well for bees, hummingbirds, butterflies, and the monarchs like to stop here as well. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant, hardy, drought tolerant, awesome pollinator. So having a pond or a water source for your pollinators is very important for your garden. Bees, hummingbirds, dragonflies, wasps even, all use my pond to drink from. And you want to just provide that habitat for the pollinators. To celebrate National Pollinators Week, I got these 3 phlox on clearance, bonus, and they'll go right here. And these are one of the first plants to start blooming in January. Love them or hate them, mimosas are an important plant for the pollinators in my garden. Hummingbirds, bees, butterflies, love it. I hope you found this informative and inspiring. At the end of the day, that is my responsibility as a gardener, is to help inspire. Thanks for watching and have a great day.